Hey everybody.
I love
Sorry,
technology so
I look.
much.
I want to apologize for the delays. I have been having issues, and then we were just swapping back and forth. But we're here live on Locked On Cavs. I'm Chris Manning. He's Evan Dammarell. We're a little bit running late tonight, but we're gonna go here for close to an hour talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. This, of course, is your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Evan, we're about 2 weeks away from Media Day. Gotta
We
tell you,
are.
when we got the email from the fine folks at Cavs PR, I had an immediate shiver down my spine that it was the same day as Phoebe Bridgers, and I was gonna just be like, "Well, guess I'm going to Phoebe Bridgers and skipping media day." Just kidding, I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. But
Nah,
the
I
shivers,
have
the
to go
shivers went.
because it's my job. But yeah, that gave me the shivers for a sec. It'd be nice for us to all to go. There's gonna be restrictions because of COVID, but see some people we haven't seen in a while. Get some face-to-face interaction. Chris and I might square up at CCC. We'll see what happens.
There's a nice little coffee shop around there that we can go meet up at before.
A Starbucks.
No, there's a locally owned one that we
I
can go
know, I'm
to.
teasing.
You little son of a gun. But we're gonna dive into a bunch of stuff today. We're gonna take your questions. So if you have them, drop them in the chat. We'll get to them later in the show. I think this one maybe, if ideally, might be a little heavier question late in one. But want to just tell you real quick that today's episode and this whole stream is brought to you by Thursdays on Locked On NBA. That's where Jackson Gatlin and Matt Moore are telling you whose NBA stock is up and whose is down. Follow the Locked On NBA podcast today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Evan, I've got a bunch of pre-prepared things I will help us use and pull out of my hat as a little trick.
Do you have a Jay
as we
Crawford
go on.
going? You got a grease board for me?
I'm gonna just rant for an hour.
Just wheel it in and talk about NFTs and Ethereum for the next hour.
No, I will not do that. You can no, I will not talk about like Pokemon statues for the next hour. I will not be doing that. But
hey, bro, you know what? Leave Pokemon out of this.
No, I might. That open world but I'm talking. That was a specific joke. That was building on top of your.
It's a very niche joke for sure, but
yeah.
As a Pokestan, and I've already been told by some I need an intervention for some of my tattoos, but somebody who considered a Pokemon tattoo.
Wow.
I won't tolerate a statue being dissed.
Gotta say that open world game looks pretty great, but
Legends of Arceus looks amazing. It's probably technically going to be a mess because it doesn't look promising. But them going for Breath of the Wild vibes is a pretty fresh new take that I dig it.
All right, but we'll talk about that next off season when we've had some time to play. And there's, the Cavs season has ended, but I've got some stuff prepared that we can get to. People drop your questions. We'll check them out in the chat as we go on. But I want to start with just we already got a question with Dylan Windler, which is salute to you, Patrick Self. We'll get to that, but
Patrick himself asked it.
I want to start with a comparison of two players, one on the Cavs, one not, who are in sort of purgatory in a lot of ways. Former All-Star Cowboy players who have had some unfortunate injury luck, and that's Kevin Love and John Wall. It was reported earlier this week that John Wall is going to not play any games for Houston. He is going to basically take a step back. They're going to try to find a home for him. They said no buyout, which is just very funny because I don't know how he's getting moved unless there is a buyout, right? That just seems sort of whatever. We'll see where that ultimately goes. But I want to just ask you, the way the John Wall thing kind of came out, it was sort of more similar to Al Horford. It hasn't been messy. The team sort of handled it, and I'd say John seemingly handled it in a way where it's okay, we know this guy. You just go back and look at his injury issue, obviously the Achilles, but he fell down some stairs, had a lot of really scary stuff happen towards the end of his time in DC. it's more like, hey, we understand this isn't great for everyone. You want different than what we want. We're in different timelines here. We're going to try and just like make this go as copacetically as possible. I just want to say, like, do you feel like the way that Houston has handled that versus the way the Kevin Love thing has happened in Cleveland, do you feel like those two things are as different as I tend to think that they've been handled very differently, and that they're sort of the way we're talking about them ends up being very different on the result. And maybe that's not necessarily totally fair, but I guess, like, how do you compare these situations?
To answer your question, I want to say yes and no, because in the John Wall situation, he was traded to Houston. Granted, that was part of the Russell Westbrook trade. In the Kevin Love scenario, the Cavs signed Kevin Love and are unable to move him. Both teams are in weird situations to begin with, situations they probably shouldn't be in to begin with, but the Rockets kind of, paid the price to try and build around James Harden, and it just clearly didn't work. But I think, the way it's being handled is certainly odd, to say the least. I think the way the Rockets are approaching this is the right way to go about things. I think them saying, listen, John, you're clearly not in our team's future plans. You want to play for a contender. I know people are saying that he's going to end up on the Clippers somehow, some way. I think a buyout is going to be inevitable unless like a team finds a trade to happen. I'm going to pose something to you in a second with this, actually. But I think if the Cavs just outright said, hey, Kevin Love, I mean, it's the team hasn't said it, but it's been said without saying it by those like Jason Lloyd or myself or Chris Fedor or you. Like, there's plenty of folks out there who have said, like, Kevin Love is no longer in the Cavs' future long-term plans.
Kevin Love himself has been like, I don't fit here, basically. He's basically said that.
He finally told LeBron, I fit out, I don't fit in. And when they drafted Evan Mobley, it became clear. When they signed Lauri Markkanen into a massive extension, that became even more clear. It's just, I don't know. It would be so easy for the Cavs to use like Woj, because the organization has a really good relationship with Adrian Wojnarowski, and especially with Kevin's agent as well, where they just say, like, listen, Kevin Love for the time being is a Cleveland Cavalier. He is welcome to practice and work out with the team, but he will not be playing with us because he is not a part of our long-term future and plans. That is such an easy thing to say, and I just don't know why the Cavs are saying it. And it's just a weird difference between how both teams are run internally, I think. I don't think Houston's the most stable organization either, but the Rockets have a clear plan that they're going to build around KPJ and Jalen Green because KPJ said he's a point guard, and the Cavs are saying, okay, we're building around Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Lauri Markkanen. Kevin, you don't really fit into this anymore. We hoped you could be our Chris Paul and lead these young players, and we could rehabilitate your trade value. That didn't work. So I think it's just best for all parties involved, so you can not compromise your basketball future, because again, he has an Achilles issue and a calf issue, and those go hand in hand with one another. So it's kind of like a ticking time bomb. So you want to allow him to properly stay in game shape, but at the same time, you don't want to risk him injuring himself to, one, jeopardize his basketball future, and two, prevent the Cavs completely from trading him.
I just don't see like a world where like any of these guys, like it's very interesting to like watch how this plays out in like other sports comparatively. Like the NFL doesn't have like a lot of the guaranteed money, where like if something happens with like this is like ultimately
Broncos player ruptured his Achilles in a non-practice, like he wasn't at a facility, so they could cut him completely.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like there's not like the guarantee of the contract. Like MLB, it's sort of like you get all the guaranteed money, but like you can kind of age a little more gracefully a lot of times on sport. Like you can like find a role that fits you even if you're getting a little bit older and whatever. Like in your favorite sport, soccer, like basically like a lot of the times, like if you have a player making like a lot of money, like but they're like not really fitting your team's plans, but they want to keep their wages. Like there's like teams in like Qatar and China, and like MLS has been this at times, where like you can just move them there, get them off of your books, and they get to go like play like a couple more years of their career and like still make the money they want to for a short amount of time. Like, or like that there's not really a way for that to happen in the NBA. Like there's not like a really clean mechanism for some of this. And some of that is like roster size. Some of that is like the function of a salary cap and I think the rising number of contracts that have been given out. I think, I wonder if there's a point where like we do see maybe teams like Cleveland in particular that are smaller markets and stuff like I wonder if like in a couple, like if they should, and I think they should probably start doing this, be a little more hesitant to offer some of these more lucrative contracts to guys that like you do have concerns about. Like there's guys that I think you break the mold for. Like I think Lowry would have been one if you have that kind of relationship with a guy, like, and you believe he can really help you. Like I think there are Chris Paul is another one. I think you just do it. But like, I think if you want to be cautious, like I can't really blame an organization for doing that as much as I think players ultimately should get the bag. And it's not their job to worry about like what the Cavs cap sheet is like in 5 years. But there's like just not these mechanisms for some. I think that makes a lot of these situations really uncomfortable. I also just think like I tend to think that the Cavs just ultimately are not necessarily the best at like handling some of the Cavs. Like when adversity has hit them and like things have happened with the team historically, I don't think this has ever been an organization that like handles things cleanly. And I think that makes them easy at times to just kind of be like, to kind of smack them around a little bit, right? Like I think like they've never been a team that is particularly just like normal. Like the way Houston and Oklahoma City, like they've handled this, like has been pretty normal, right? Like they and obviously those are a little bit different because of the trades. And I think that's a smart point, but like, there's just got to be like a clean way to handle some of this stuff. And I think like the Wall thing is just like, I find the leaking of like, oh, he's been a great guy in locker room and like he hasn't complained once. Like I find these like leaks like very over the top because you're just trying to like the spin is in effect there. But it's just one of those, and not saying it's not true. It's just like there's a clear purpose of why you leak that at the same time as stuff. It's like these situations are just particularly like uncomfortable in the NBA, and the Cavs just happen to have one right now that's like, I mean, it just has a direct impact on the team right now. And I hate talking about it all the time, but it's like, it's just sort of like the burden of like what I think the team is kind of building with right now.
You know what else is a burden, Chris? Having too many streaming apps to manage and too many streaming devices. And you know what can help us out? Our friends and our today's sponsor, DirecTV.
That's right.
Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before so that you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV. Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
So what do you think about that as far as me talking about how these things are kind of always seemingly very uncomfortable?
Oh, it's super uncomfortable, man. Like, it's been clear for a while Kevin Love doesn't want to be here. I think it became clear when he came back from the injury after he signed that mammoth extension. Like, he regrets it. Like, he all but didn't Eric Bledsoe tweet, "I don't want to be here," and then say he was at the salon with Kate. So it's an uncomfortable situation overall. I don't know a tenable path forward for the Cavs other than just them outright saying, okay, Kevin Love is still a Cleveland Cavalier going forward, but he will not be playing for the team because it's just beneficial for both parties involved that he doesn't play, but he's allowed to be present to work out and be a part of practice. But we're just kind of shelving him until we can find a new trade destination for him. And ideally, it's still going to be a buyout. I think it's going to go towards a buyout, but we will not see that till after the trade deadline at this point.
I kind of want to leave it there because I just like don't know what else to say about this. Like, I think like if we're looking at media day, like,
oh, bro, it's going to be so weird. It's like
media day is going to be like weird because of like the reality of it.
Media day too. Like Ben Simmons could show up and cause a huge stink. Like I would, as a man who loves drama, as someone who consumes trash TV and partakes in 90 Day Fiance in my 600-pound life, I would love this trash TV drama coming from Ben Simmons in Philly. But to your point, go ahead.
Well, media day just is going to be, it's going to be weird because of like obviously it's not going to be exactly this. Like, I don't know. I like, because we have, I think rightly, like masks and things like that. Like,
It's a hot
it's
take.
just, yeah. It's going to be one of those like weird things where it's just like, you can't, like, I don't think it's going to be as like much moving around. Like there's just like a lot of stuff where it's like,
well, the Cavs kind of laid out the parameters. We don't want to get too much into it, but they more or less said, like, listen, we have a select amount of media that can come to in-person media day. The rest of you will be on Zoom. And then they have to space people out accordingly. And I think like I don't know if they'll do like the Cavs kids stuff like they usually do during media day, or like they have some of the kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And,
It's
like,
not going to be like,
players.
it's usually kind of like a circus and like a little bit awkward at that. And like there's just like these moments where I'm like, why is it's just very weird. Like the first time seeing like Derrick Rose, like on like the dais, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where it's just like very bizarre. Like it's just media. It's going to be a little bit different. And the Kevin thing of it is just like,
how political do you think Kevin will be if he is on the
but
dais?
that's the thing. I don't know.
I should say he be.
Well, and I just think a lot about like how the fact that like the way that the team decided to like address a lot of this last year, and then I don't want to talk about this anymore, is like, hey, we're gonna let him just like vent for like 10 minutes on Zoom, and we're not gonna like engage with your actual questions.
Unfiltered, and then guess what? Nothing of value came from it.
No, and like there was no probing. Like it's like, you know.
That's also the state of the current Cavs coverage and who the Cavs want to elicit certain coverage to.
We're moving on. We're moving on. No bad vibes.
So Jared, let me get his official title. He is the managing editor of the Browns Wire, Jared Mueller. He floated this news today. Let's just do an absolute garbo trade. Like, Philly is obviously giving off the prettiest bag of garbage here. Like, it's a gold bag of garbage if you want to consider Ben Simmons that. But the Cavs get Ben Simmons, the Sixers get John Wall, and the Rockets get Kevin Love. And I said, why would Houston do that? Houston could just go get Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons would be a pretty dang good fit in Houston, in my opinion. Like him, KPJ, Jalen Green, Christian Wood, that's a pretty good place to build off of. Like, am I outlandish in saying that? Plus, like, I don't, but at the same time, I also don't know if Philly does this because I don't like John Wall's theoretical fit in Philly.
Oh,
like, yeah,
Philly's not, dude. You need a third team. Like, John Wall is not. Joel Embiid is 28 years old, and like part of the reason the Cavs are like in a tricky position with like a Simmons trade, if that's something they wanted to do, is just like they don't have. I don't think like the best offer they can make is the kind of package that is like making feel good. I was just listening to when I was out driving this evening. I was listening to the Nerder pod from the Athletic. So Dave DeFore, Mo DeKeel, Seth Partnow. For my money, I think my favorite like general NBA pod. I think that pod is always my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I said general
NBA on here.
No, Evan, you got to stop taking these things as slights all the time.
Listen, after we supplanted the Chase Down podcast many moons ago as the
independent contractors, the Chase Down.
Yeah, like I need somebody to scrap with, so you become my target. Okay. First, it was Justin Rowan to bring us back, and then I just took Justin's playbook and then used it against him, where I would just troll him back.
Yeah,
using the podcast account. Anyways.
So like Seth was talking about how like I think one of the things that keeps happening with Ben Simmons is like teams are forgetting that like the way we're talking about him is like the stuff he isn't doing, and it's like there's a ton of stuff he does really, really well, and if Philly is going to move him, like let's just say they did the McCollum Simmons thing like as a swap, like there's a massive defensive step they're losing where it's like I don't know it's such a complicated trade for Philly in if they're dealing him, and I don't think the Cavs can offer them anything that is like really what they need. You know,
we shouldn't really crystallize not just the Ben Simmons loss, but we should talk about how Philly really mismanaged so many of their assets and getting to this point. Like Robert Covington, Markelle Fultz.
Okay, but that's like a locked on Sixers. Shots to Keith Pompey. That's a whole other thing.
Like that's just my thing. Like the Sixers backed themselves into this corner, and there's just. They built around Simmons and Embiid when it was clear that this fit didn't work. And so, I seemed like an idiot for saying this a year ago. But yeah, his value is pretty low, but I still think the McCollum swap is the one that makes most sense for both parties involved. But I don't think it keeps Dame in Portland, but that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good building block to go forward with, and Robert Covington can play with his friend Ben Simmons again.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this. I just want to end our second segment of the first part on this. If there was and then I'll ask you another hypothetical. I'm going to steal from Nerder, to lead off segment 3. But
okay,
is there another player you are most excited to see at Media Day?
Oh gosh, that is. I think I said Ricky Rubio the other day. For those listening, I requested to the Cavs if I'm get my credentials approved to speak with Ricky for a story, but we'll see how that goes. That's a really good question because I don't know. We've seen a lot of these guys because Isaac and Evan played in Summer League. Like, I guess maybe Collin and Darius, maybe to get an idea of like what work Darius has put in this offseason. Like, physically look at him, I guess. What about you?
Isaac. Because that's just who I am. That's just who I am. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, like, I'm doing a deep dive on him because somebody asked me, like, what kind of leap do we need from him and what kind of players could we kind of draw comparisons from? And I'm stealing something from Jay Kyle-Man where I like, don't have a direct comparison, but there's like a cloud of players you can compare him to. And like Gerald Wallace, Justice Winslow, Jimmy Butler, and Andre Iguodala. The last, like, Butler and Iguodala being like his 99th percentile hit. I'm like, yeah, maybe we could see something like this. But subscribe to Write Down the Euclid if you want to read it. I'm not going to spill everything.
But but Evan, you know this. Like, I don't think there's a Cavs player I have more fun watching possession to possession than Isaac Okoro.
Well, defense is neat because the Cavs haven't played a lick of it in forever. So
well, I have like specific tastes of like what I like watching and like way I would like. It's just one of those things when you start like brainstorming like team building. I just find what he does to just be like,
do you think Do you think he's a 2 guard or a 3?
I think he's a basketball player, friend. He's a hooper.
Yeah, damn right, JJ. But Chris, let's put a pin in this combo. I'm not going to segue as well on this one.
Well, we got
again. The guy who invented Segway drove a Segway off a cliff. So why don't you give us a quick word from our sponsors, and then I'll give you another quick word from our sponsors.
So look, got to tell everyone. We had people in the chat asking about this. Of course, we're sponsored by Built Bar. This would not be a Locked On Cavs podcast if Built Bar was not.
People ask me about the podcast. I'm like, I talk about the Cavs, but I'm more of a protein bar salesman at this point.
Look, coconut, cherry barcia, mint brownies, strawberry. There's a ton of great flavors. The strawberry one tastes like a chocolate covered strawberry. Like, go get that one. That's probably my favorite right now. If you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mixed box where you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors, 17, 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. They're all tasty and all healthy. Order today. Get that raspberry, that cherry barcia, or that strawberry, or whatever you like. And remember, Built Bar is the official protein bar of the United States track and field team. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com.
They're also the official protein bar of Chris Manning's voice crack of saying whatever you like.
Look,
yeah,
it is what it is.
We can bet on a couple audio mishaps on Locked On Cavs. There's just another boner right there. But today's episode is also sponsored by BetOnline. We're back and better than ever. All eyes on the gridiron as teams are back on the field to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 100%. That's right, 100%. One scundo welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Do not forget to use promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, and it's also the exclusive betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Also, do not forget to use promo code Locked On. New copy, and I goofed this one up. Hey-o.
Anyway, Evan, if I were to, here's a hypothetical I just want to throw at you. If there
Lay it on
were
me.
an era of recent Cavs like history basketball, do you want to go back and just kind of reprocess, for the first time, have it the time in detail, like whatever it is, like if there was just an era, I guess, or a specific season that you would want to go back. Let's do season because that kind of makes it a little bit harder. If you're going to pick a season to go back and kind of revisit, is there one that you would kind of want to harp on? I'll give me a Cavs answer and then a general NBA answer.
God, why? Craig Elo.
That would have been,
According to Terry Pluto, the best years of Cavs basketball.
So you're saying like that Mark Price, Larry, that era Price, specifically.
Because I firmly remain, and I'm beating my chest with enthusiasm here, that if you took Mark Price and dropped him in today's NBA, people will be hyping him up as much as they would Steph Curry because his stats are insane. When you look at him for like a 90s style player, like he did not fit the mold of a 90s basketball player. He would thrive in the modern NBA with the spacing and the way defense is played nowadays. General wise, like to relive a moment or even just be a part of it.
I have a Cavs season and a general NBA like era and season that I would want to go do.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall for Malice in the Palace, but or the first season of that Heatles team. Like I was so invested in that basketball team emotionally because LeBron just left, both on and off the floor, because that was must-see TV, that Miami Heat basketball, and that kind of like that team was really responsible in making like basketball like putting it in the forefront of people's minds because LeBron James played for them, but. That's just, I don't know. Those are my two picks. What about you?
Cavs season so that would have been the 12-13 season. It's the Bynum year. That's like
excellent pick. I like that one.
So it's like it's a year where I like was covering the team and following the team, but it's not at a point where like I think I knew as much or like I think like I was as detailed and organized as I am sometimes now. And taking notes.
The sword yet? Or was this back when it was actually right down Euclid?
It was that, and I was like a very anxious like freshman at Ohio University.
Anxious? Never.
So that's the Cavs. Just because I think it'd be interesting to go back and like revisit it and like kind of get a assessing of some of covering kind of like a goofy team. The season, if I could like really just like understand it in any more detail. Well, I should also say I think LeBron's senior year of high school also would have been like really cool to go back to and just like kind of take in a different way and just kind of process, because I was so young. I was like 10 years old. It's like not like I fully grasped like I think the magnitude of having someone that special like nearby when I was that age. And my dad's not like my dad, who like is my prism into sports stuff a lot of the ways, is like not was not like a huge necessarily basketball guy. But the other one I would want to do is the year the Thunder with KD, Russ, and Harden made the finals.
Oh, that's a good pick too,
because I think that's
my biggest team, what if is if the Thunder didn't cheat on James Harden.
But first, Pearl Jam. Shout
out Secret Base. They did a really good video on the Thunder's collapse.
Yeah, but I'm making a joke.
I know.
We gotta
support our homies though. That's all.
Solid Seth. I would just like to specifically just like the Thunder stuff. I just find like fascinating, and like that level, it's like nuts that like that went how it was, right? Like I just think that would have been crazy. I also just like would like to go back to a world where like like we would just get like videos of like LeBron like eating like Wendy's with like Dwight Howard and Chris Paul like in a rest stop somewhere. Like I think that
that video is a trip, man. I was just like, I forgot about this, and
I just like
it's so weird. Like Imagine being that rest stop worker and you're just chilling and like these grown ass men. Like Dwight Howard's a Goliath of a human, so is LeBron. But they're like, yeah, I'll take like a number 5, a number 6, and a number like 12.
I just like miss like eras where like things felt a little more like normal, and like maybe that is like me being nostalgic or something that didn't exist. You know what I mean? But like, I think there's just something sort of more like normal. Like I don't know. I think there's just like something now where like I think a lot of the time that like the realities of like of what being like an NBA player seems to end up being a lot of the time is like just it just has changed, I think, so much. You know what I mean? Like it really has, like it's yeah, I don't really know exactly how to describe it. There's just something feels very different in a way I can't exactly like put my finger on a little bit.
Well, it's part of growing up, but I think it's also because everything is a lot more ignorance is bliss is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you've talked about this before.
Team.
Well, but it's like I remember like when we first started becoming friends, and I was like, you're just gonna get like frustrated by a lot of this. Like it will change the way you think about some of this, and I think like sometimes I've let that go too far. But like I tend to think that Daniel says more professional. I think it's like buttoned up is a good way of putting it. Like everyone is, it's just like it's like I think like it tend to be like if you're more authentic and less like buttoned up and like presenting a certain like vibe, I think it's actually better if you're just kind of like I just want to leave it at that. But I mean, I think we should end part 1 there.
Take a quick break real quick and come right back.
We're gonna take a break. We're not going anywhere if you're watching live. We're just gonna throw up a little overlay and we'll be back
posterity.
Here. Yeah, we'll be back
quick
here
before we go. You mentioned that Thunder team. I would love to watch the apex of that grit and grind Grizzlies team again. That team really made me fall in love with basketball.
Okay, I have
so fun to watch. Or that Spurs team, the revenge Spurs team that came back and absolutely beat the shit out of the Heat after
some of the most beautiful
because like he saw Kawhi Leonard was checking back.
So just quick grit and grind story. I was in I'd taken a weekend trip with I would have been in college then. A summer weekend trip with my dad and my uncle to Pittsburgh, and we went to just like a random like Pirates game, hung out in the city for a couple of days. We were in this was like NBA, the Grizzlies are playing like the Warriors in the playoffs, and I couldn't exactly tell you what year this is. I have to go figure this out, but
I'm trying to think myself because I became like a closet Grizzlies fan after like that series against the Clippers was brutal. I loved it.
But we were like in a bar in Pittsburgh eating dinner after like going to the game, and like me asking like the waiter to turn the one small TV on
in Pittsburgh, so I could watch
in Pittsburgh when there's like, and they were just like, "You want to watch what?" I'm like, "I would watch
it's
the
not
Grizzlies Warriors game, please."
I remember when the Pistons floated about moving to Pittsburgh for a second. I'm just like, it's not a basketball town. It will literally die there. Like, go look up the ABA history in Pittsburgh. The franchise has barely lasted there. Rest in peace to the Pipers and the Condors.
Well, and salute to Mac Miller. Faces coming out on vinyl. Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. All right, we'll be right back, fellas and gals and everybody else.
All humans.
All humans. Shoot.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, we're going to take some questions here.
It's a sad AMA. We don't have a single Judah question. And I love all you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. But like, Judah brightens my day when he asks us a question.
All right, scrolling back up to the top here. Okay, so Patrick Self, I want to salute this. This is the very first question we got. How much faith do you guys have in Dylan Windler finally having a decent season? Is this make or break for him?
I'd say it's make or break for sure. Like, literally and figuratively, like he could easily break his body again. But if this year doesn't work out for him, I think Dylan Windler would be like trade fodder for the Cavs to make like another lateral move to upgrade their wing depth or some other position in need. Like that's just kind of how I feel. Like if you can get him to contribute and the Cavs can utilize him properly in their offense as a shooter, great. But I like a lot of people are like when I was talking about like rotations and like depth charts for the Cavs, they're like, well, where's Windler? I'm like, I need Dylan Windler to stay healthy for me to firmly say like, okay, he is a part of this rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is make or break for him. I also just think like that it has been just very unlucky in that it has, not hurt him. Like obviously, he gets hurt before his rookie season, cost him a whole year. Got a little bit of G League time that year, but then it never gets to, really gets to finish out that year on a strong note of any in any way. There, pandemic comes back slowly, deals with some injuries last year. Kind of just, it's not been smooth for him. I think for him, if we want to talk about this sort of in like a way where like this could work out for him, at least in the short term, he firmly to me should be in the conversation for like those backup 3 minutes. Like I do not think that him, Jetty, Denzel Valentine, Lamar Stevenson, none of those guys have like on paper here right now differentiated themselves fully from the rest of the pack, right? Like there's no one. If you were to tell me today, like on September 15th, I had to bet who would be sort of like the odds-on favorite to be the backup 3, I would tend to think it's Denzel or Lamar, just because I think those are more JB Bickerstaff style players. Like those are guys who are going to like defend
Lamar
and
just because
give you some
his familiarity with Lamar.
Yeah, but like Denzel's like this. I just think like there's the Denzel case because he's like the vet who's like been in the league, and like that just screams kind of like I think JB would hit that button. But like if you're looking at like an upside play, I think there's an argument that like Windler has a ton of potential to maybe just be interesting and get a shot, because he on paper he should be the best shooter by a wide margin of any of these guys. Now Jetty's had like a very good 3-point shooting season. I'm also salute to Jetty Osman getting in now engaged. Good for him.
Okay, so he was engaged, not married. No.
Yes. Use Instagram. I need Twitter. So like if Windler comes into training camp and is healthy and like can compete and can like shoot, there's like a way he can be, I think, like a pretty interesting guy. But is that like a lock to happen? No. Like Dylan Windler needs to be like rebuilt, and I also think like it would help if the Cavs just did anything more modern on offense this year instead of like double drag being like one of the more exotic things that they run. Like it would help a guy like Windler. Like if he could just get some like cutting across the lane, like a la Duncan Robinson, like just trying to create a little extra space, like coming off some pin downs, like setting actions, doing some screening off ball away from the primary action to kind of free him up. Like there's stuff you could do that makes him not stationary, that needs to be to kind of get the Cavs forward. It would make life easier for him and everybody else. So yeah.
Do you want to take one more question before we take a break?
Yeah, you pick this one out.
Oh gosh. One I've been chewing on a lot. And Norp asks me this, and I've been thinking about this a little bit lately just because of the Nance trade, but Mobley as a Durant-esque 3. Durant was a shooter coming out of Texas, going into the league, and he played the 2 guard for the Sonics. I think that was intentional thinking on their part, but he also had to grow into his body more.
Do not put anyone in Kevin Durant's like I think saying Durant-esque is like just blasphemy.
Comparing Darius Garland to Steph Curry, which is what I'm doing right now in a story next week. Evan,
why are you doing that?
That's like the 120th percentile.
So like so extreme that it's not that possible is what you're telling me.
In terms of shooting. Yeah, dude, that's why I included people like Jeff Teague in there too.
I hate player comps, but like I think Mobley, like Lillard. If he's
and Nick Van Exel.
No,
the Van Exel one makes a little sense. Be honest, he's a small point guard that hit threes a lot. but Van Exel also
Garland.
thrived playing for the Lakers.
Dig Garland is Garland. I kind of think that like Mobley like has other stuff that I think is more interesting. Like I think like the comp that if you want to make like a bonkers comp of like what his like best version of Evan Mobley looks like on a really good team, I think like I tend to think it's probably more like a Giannis like thing than a Durant thing. Of he's going to be like
that even made me make a face, so that's a good one.
Well, but no, here's the thing. Evan Mobley, if he's going to be the best version of himself as like a lead A+ guy, like hits every mark that he can get to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him as being a guy you're just going to like throw the ball to and he's going to like be that smooth with the rock in his hands, getting pull-up jumpers from everyone on the floor. Like, I don't think that's his game. I don't think he's ever going to develop like those fast twitch, like shooting mechanics. Like, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to like add a bunch of muscle to his frame and like get stronger and like bruise guys downhill and run an offense through him that way. And like, maybe you need a Garland, a guy who's not on the roster yet, a Sexton, someone to kind of be in like that Chris Middleton role to be your closer.
Oh yeah, that's what I think. I agree with that.
That's what I think is like the template for Mobley more than like, hey, you can have like the 10th best offensive league just giving the ball to Kevin Durant and letting him do whatever the F he wants for 48 minutes a night. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's Mobley's game.
No, I don't think so either.
He's not gonna. If Evan Mobley has rail thin arms in like 2 years, then something has drastically just gone in a way that we didn't expect.
Chris, you know what can prevent that?
Built Bar?
Yeah, today's sponsor, Built Bar.
Look, Built Bar, guys. Coconut, cherry barcia. I actually wasn't even sure that this is where this was going, but then I think about the rest of our sponsors, and yeah, you don't like eat car parts. So cookies and cream, German chocolate. My favorite flavor right now, I think it's the strawberry. If you haven't tried out any of the flavors, get a mixed box. You get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. Great macros on these. 17 to 18 grams of protein. Calories ranging from 130 to 180. 4 to 5 grams of sugar and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Order today. Get the mint brownie, that cherry barcia, or that coconut, or whatever it is you like. Remember, check out that mix box if you want to try them all. And remember, Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com.
Sorry, I'm really caught up on you saying you can't eat car parts, like no dip, and that's really making me sweat right now. And you know what can help me out, Chris? Today's sponsor, Sweat Block.
Yeah.
So there are a few things in life that just are not fun to talk about. One of them is excessive sweating. You know, when you're sweating through your shirts for no reason, it's embarrassing, right? That's why I'm wearing a hoodie with confidence in 70-degree weather, which, thanks to Sweat Block, currently #1 in Amazon's antiperspirant category, thanks to you, the listener. Some of you may know that I personally have dealt with terrible sweating problems. When I speak in public or on a live stream, I can't help but sweat through my shirt. Now listen, I know this isn't life or death, and there are a lot more serious problems in the world, but let's be honest, in the moment it feels like a big deal. Nobody likes to pit out during an important speech, interview, or a first date, God forbid. I'd much rather not worry about it, and that's why I use Sweat Block antiperspirant wipes. Sweat Block is stronger and more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. You simply apply it at night before bedtime, go to bed, and the next morning you wake up, wash, and go about your day without worrying about sweat. Guaranteed. I know this will sound too good to be true, but I literally only have to use Sweat Block just once a week, and it will keep me dry the whole time. No more pitting out, no more picking my shirts based on what will hide the sweat better. If you or someone you love is dealing with this, you have to check out Sweat Block. Get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com using promo code LOCKEDON or at Amazon, where again, it's the #1 antiperspirant, or CVS.
All right, so
Chris Car Parts Manning is back with us right now, folks.
I mean, look, I don't have to worry about that right now. You know,
Chris, what is the most edible car part for you?
None of them. You can't air fry your way out of that one.
You're stuck on a desert island and you can only use one car part to survive. What would you pick? I'd pick the gasoline and just immolate myself in it at all. But
all right, so we got a question from Trevor Bauer.
Okay.
I'm just going by. We got to move on here.
Okay.
So he asks, how much has Okoro really improved his handle? Vegas still didn't impress me, but I'm not a basketball savant, so it could be wrong. Maybe I'm expecting guard handles, and that's why I'm disappointed. So I tend to think this. I tend to think that Summer League is not a great example for you to like figure out how much stuff has totally improved. Like it is such a different flow of game. Everything just works differently. It's guys he doesn't have familiarity with. Like, don't read too much into that. At the same time, I don't expect Okoro to he's not going to show up and start like crossing dudes over. Like he's not going to show you like a bunch of wizardry in his hands. Like that's just not what he's going to be. He's a little more robotic, and like there's going to be a limit on sort of how he's going to improve his dribble. At the same time, I think if you want to watch and see how he has improved this year, if you want to track this, where I tend to think that it's going to be key is like watch him on closeouts and when he's attacking, like in any sort of situation where he gets a screen, because Okoro's best moments with the ball in his hands, I think like the way he's going to be the most successful unless he drastically changes his game in some way. I think is going to be a guy that like really attacks closeouts tightly, and that requires a handle that is propelling him forward, that is tight, that is not able to get picked at by help defenders or in the lane. Like it has to be something that is solid and in control. And when he's in space or going on a screen, it has to be something where he is able to control it, keep it tight, and be in the right spot to continue to move forward. I tend to think you watch that, and if you watch last year, there's times where like it'd be a little loose, it would look a little stiff, guys could smack the ball. Like there's just little stuff he can improve on that can make him much more effective in those situations. You're never gonna see him like doing crazy like trick dribbles or like being like kind of an artiste with the ball in his hands in that way. You're gonna see him be kind of a powerhouse, and like that's gonna require him to keep the ball very tight, protected, and have a dribble that is more functional than like really fun to watch. So that's how I would kind of say it. I think it's an open question of how much it has improved. We're never going to be able to throw like a percentage on that in any way, but that's just kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on it, man. Like, I don't think you can ever say Isaac is going to be like a primary initiator of this offense. He's just going to be a tertiary creator, which is helpful because I think the Cavs need to play make by committee until they can. Well, I don't know. Maybe Ricky Rubio and Darius Garland really are the balm to answer some of the Cavs' playmaking needs. But like, you need to have playmaking by committee. Losing Larry Nance Jr. certainly hurts that a lot too. So you're kind of hoping maybe Isaac Okoro takes that next step, but you shouldn't expect him to be a primary initiator. And like you said, Summer League is really tough to fully gauge what the Cavs are trying to do. Like they played Brodric Thomas at point a lot, and shouts to Brodric Thomas. He's in the freaking title of this thing. He got a two-way deal with the Cavs today. Congrats to him.
Yeah. Good for him. So want to just note this question from Daniel Norp again. If you guys want more topics, I could learn more about plays and names like double drags. So two things. I think there's a great website called Basketball Dictionary. If you want to go do a bunch of concepts, like that's a place you can go and learn a lot of that. We don't really have the time. I don't think we have the knowledge either to really dive and explain this stuff to you in the way like you need. There's other people that do that work that you can go find on Twitter.
Scout with Chris is not coming to your Twitter feed. Sorry, folks.
Or your DMs. But just a quick explanation of what a double drag is. So when you see like basically two bigs that have set staggered screens on the perimeter, so like around, let's say like the left wing. So like the double drag is going to be where they set these staggered screens, and typically one guy is going to pop. So like let's say it's Lowry Market, and he's going to pop out, and then if Allen's the roll guy, the second guy here closer to the rim, he's going to roll. So like what you do is you set those staggered screens, you create two actions, and then the guard has kind of different pathways they can go to kind of move things forward. The Cavs ran it a lot last year. They didn't really like do a ton of twists on it. Like you'd have some. Maybe once in a while a guy cutting off the weak side. You have sometimes like both guys like rolling and just doing a staggered delayed roll, but like it's something they leaned on a lot, and specifically for Kevin Love, and I think they'll do this with Markkanen, was a lot of like just get a quick three. You can get a clean quick 3-point look with Kevin Love, run a double drag. If they totally miss the roll guy, then you throw it to the roll guy and you get them a dunk. But if Love pops, you can feed it to him and he's either going to make a pass to reset the offense or he can get up a quick three. Like it's just kind of like a kind of a basic action you can use to kind of do other stuff with and at least give yourself like a base of reference. If someone smarter than me tells me I'm wrong, I'm also open to be wrong, I think, but I that's kind of how I'd understand it.
Well, here's something I'm going to tell you you're wrong about. You cannot eat car parts, and our friends at Rock Auto do not condone this action. And they're also today's sponsor for this episode. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend up to 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, a Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 at a chain store and $216 at Rock Auto. And in my case, an AC system is about $1,000 to replace. But if you use your friends at Rock Auto, I saved like $600, I think, at the end of the day on the part alone, and then the service itself balance it out. But that's a story for another day. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low and are for every customer. You should go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. So if you're interested, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car, truck, or vehicle. Right, locked on in there. How did you hear about this box to know that we sent you? Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, but you cannot unfortunately eat. rockauto.com.
Also, got to tell you about our friends at Bet Online, the official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and they're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start on their football season. As always, Bet Online is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up, and use the promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season. That's BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Evan, let's do 2 more questions.
Okay.
I want you to pick. Do you want to pick one first, or do you want me to pick one first?
You go ahead and pick. I picked the second to last one, so I feel like you're on a roll right now.
Okay, so
calling you Butter. You're on a roll. Chris Carpart's Butter Manning. Then the nickname just rolls off.
Look, I got to tell you, car shopping right now, not fun. Not
at all. But hey, Chris has a has
don't
Cybertrucks.
Oh, so I got to about to actually dox me in what car happened.
His license plate number is CMW.
It's actually Scott with B.
No, it's CWMWR exclamation point TES. So everyone knows who you are on the road.
Okay, so I'm going to choose violence. And we got a question.
What's the most narcissistic thing? You could put like your own Twitter handle as your license plate, so everyone knows like, hey, it's at am not Evan. So like that guy has his Twitter handle and he just
but
I'm like the most defensive driver. I drive like an old person. It drives people up a wall when I have to drive places.
Okay, that's good to know. Stephen Jenkins asked,
I literally will set cruise control to 55 when it's 55 and just sit there. And I was like, dude, you can go faster. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want a ticket. So college Evan learned his lesson quick, folks. That's a story for maybe next week's show. Does Collin get more aggressive and take more shots and bog down the offense more in a contract year? I want to say no, but that is a good question, actually.
Can I tell you what would actually help him make more money and also help the team do better?
Take more threes and make more. Or just take more threes in general. It's something I wrote in his player review. It's something we've been screaming from the mountaintops for months now. Is if Collin Sexton's life would be so much easier, because if you look at his shot profile and how like how he consumes on offense, if he just took more threes, I would probably stop bitching about his usage rate so much and maybe stop saying he's a 6-man so much. And he'd help the rest of the team so much more. Maybe the rest of his teammates wouldn't hate playing with him so much if he just took more threes and made their lives a hell of a lot easier. Like, yeah, him making the simple read on Jared Allen, really, really good development on Collin's part. Like, I was pleasantly surprised. Taking more threes is the next step. Like, Chris pointed this out really, really intelligently about a year ago or so, where he said Collin needs to start using his aggressiveness to get to the free throw line more often. And that was the next step in his offensive evolution. I think defensively, we got to punt on him being a defensive player. But if he takes more threes, it just makes everybody's life so much easier.
So I tend to think no.
I agree.
So I agree with you. I think it's more threes, and I think it's using his speed and his like strength and his like he's got a pretty strong frame for like a smaller guard. We saw a little bit of this last year. I think it's more free throws. I think those two things iron out some like just a little change the shot profile a little bit, and not only will you make more money, but you'll just be a more effective player. And that's something Chris Middleton has done. Kind of, I think most famously in recent memory, cut out a lot of long twos to take threes, and there's just tangible benefits for guys doing that. So that's my answer there. Evan, you got to pick a question now.
Okay. Before resonating with your question, that's about what area do you like to go back to? We touched on this a little bit, but we'll talk about it again because I have thought about it a bit. Patrick Self again. Does the Pangos signing indicate a mid-season Rubio trade may occur, in parentheses, especially considering Rubio's desire to play for a contender? I think that caveat is the new development on things. I want to say no. I think the Cavs might try and explore, like, shoot, maybe they get in a 3-teamer with Houston and they bring Dante Axon back for old time's sake. But I think Rubio would make sense on a lot of contending teams. Like, he just makes a lot of sense as a bench guard for a lot of contending teams. But I don't know if Pangos is really the answer either. I think Pangos is the break glass in case of emergency because Ricky Rubio, thankfully, has stayed healthy for the better part of the last few seasons. But you can't rely on him and Garland to be out there on a night-to-night basis some nights. So Pangos is just like your third option. And I don't know. Kudos to the Cavs for finally getting two healthy or competent options behind Darius.
I mean, we don't know how good Pangos is in the NBA. It's just like we have no idea.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's a big what if. Like, if this was Marvel's Disney Plus's Marvel What If, this would be an episode of what if Kevin Pangos played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know. That was my lame.
You didn't quite land it, but I appreciate the effort. I tend to think that like
that one, I know.
You did what I would do, just mess it up. I tend to think that like though, like if the season like I'm cool with finding out if Pangos is like any good if they just get to the end of the year and like Rubio's been traded and the team is kind of bad, and then it's like okay, like it's not all that harmful at that point if you're just trying to figure out what matters for next year again already.
Yeah, why not? Like, why not? You sign this guy, you might as well see what you have with him. If there's something there. His contract is pretty much non-guaranteed after the season. It's for the men. You see what you have, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe you get a good enough tape on him that he could be a trade chip for you for like a Kobe Altman special.
Yeah, just throw him in
a bunch of non-guaranteed contracts to make a deal work.
We have one more question I wanted to hit, and I couldn't find it before, so I just want to find it real quick.
I got one.
I already got it.
Oh.
Project NBA _ do you guys think Jared Allen will develop a reliable jumper? I want to say that he already has a pretty good like jumper from the free throw line. Like he actually already has it in his bag. It's
the mechanics are solid. It's just not part of his toolkit. Well,
but I want to twist this question and ask, like, do you care if he has like a reliable like 3-point jumper? And like I don't think Jared Allen's going to be taking like a lot of jumpers. Hot take.
Again, Chris Manning at the controversial takes here. I remember when we joked about how Andre Drummond was gone. The Cavs wouldn't have a three or a setter that took threes, and then Jared Allen took a three soon after that. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, not again. But
he didn't look like bad is the thing. Like it's like
no, that's the thing. Like he has solid shot mechanics. It's just not part of his toolkit. And I think Jared Allen is hyper aware of like what is beneficial to it and like not boggy. Like he is the antithesis of what Andre Drummond was for this Cavs team, where Drummond was going to soak up so many shots in the low post. He was going to dominate the ball. He was going to take lazy threes. He was going to give half effort on both ends.
Well, they play defense. Like Jared Allen tries to block like every single shot with his life and use his body. Drummond is like, I'm going to like let you go. I'm going to have active hands, but I'm going to let you go by me and try to chase you down. Like their ethos as players are just like basically extremely different. And Drummond obviously like a little like Allen is this long kind of like stretchy kind of thing, and Drummond is theoretically a little more solid, a little more bulky, and kind of in that vein.
I think, I guess, sure, if he took threes, I think every now and then, sure, why not? But I just don't really see it becoming a part of his toolkit. Now, if it's like a mid-range jumper or something like the Cavs can kind of use as like a pop option and provide more spacing.
But he has it,
but he just doesn't use it.
It's a release valve. Like his best work is like lob threat, crashing the offensive glass, screening for you and rolling, and then like that safety valve 16-footer is there. Like if he rolls and the lane is clogged and then he's just like sitting there by himself, like he can make that shot. I'll be curious to see if the Cavs like when they play him and Mobley together, I think it'll be worth watching like where they try to place him, because if Mobley's, let's say, rolling to the rim, do they put down in the corner and like try to make him like a corner 3-point shooter to at least like draw a defender out of that way, right? Like I think like there are just things that tactically, I'll be curious to see how they kind of handle it offensively. I tend to think that the defensive fit for Mobley and Allen is much cleaner than the offensive fit. As we start off year one of the partnership, I think their defensive fit to me makes way more sense on paper than the offensive fit, because I think it's going to require, especially because like you don't have like a dead-eye shooter at the 3, like you're basically putting a lot of pressure on the guards to be your shooters. And then like, where do you like, how do you kind of fit all these pieces together? It's an open question that I want to see how creative they're willing to get to kind of work around it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Sorry, I was going to ask Finnegan for his thoughts, but homie is conked out on the couch right now. And I don't know. I think defensively, the fit between Allen and Mobley make a ton of sense. I have a lot of questions offensively how it's going to work, unless the Cavs really want to play 80s style basketball like they JB Bickerstaff joked about last season. But I think you want Mobley to develop a 3-point shot than you do Allen. And I think Mobley has a better potential to do so.
That might be a year 2 thing we see, or second half of year 1 thing. Like I don't really have a gauge on like what his 3-point shot is going to look like from day one. I don't think we know. I mean, I think that's like why marketing, like there's logic to him starting like from day one if you want to just make things functional, but not put a ton of pressure on Mobley right away. I think that's like a route you could go. There's just like a lot of little and I also, again, I just
marketing really makes life easier for Okoro. He makes life easier.
There's
for
a lot of
these players,
but there's a lot of pressure on a
how
guy.
Bad this Cavs team is at shooting.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. It's like for a guy that is like marketing is fine. Like there's a lot of pressure.
Savior. He's a very
but the fact that it's like that's like the guy that needs your like connecting tissue is like kind of an interesting quirk of this roster, I would say. I also just think like if there's ever been time for JB Bickerstaff to be willing to like show that he can kind of be more creative with what the roster is presented to him, this is the year it has to happen. Like it has to be like this roster is dying for like a coach to come in and look at it and say, okay, I have all these funky pieces, but I can try to make, and they're really young, and like there's going to be some stuff here that isn't totally clean, but I'm going to be creative and try to work around it. I think that if the Cavs had a coach that I think you were sure could do that, I think the opinion of the team for me changed a little bit. I just don't know what you're going to get from JB in that regard. And I like JB. I think he's like the right tenor in a lot of regards. I think he handles stuff really well. I think he's trying to, like, his idea on defense last year of just like, we're going to like nail the fundamentals and then try to add wrinkles in as we go on is the right approach for a young team that sucked on defense. We'll see where it goes this year. And I think offensively, there's just a lot that we would need to see to kind of, I don't feel like I know what his like offensive vision is other than just like kind of very vanilla like actions and banking on guys making plays out of those actions. Like there's nothing that like he is like, if the Cavs had like whoever like the head coach was at is like the like, I don't know why it doesn't happen in the NBA, and maybe because like there's so much, it's a little harder to break it down because there's just so much action, and some of it is more like artistic and improvised sometimes. But like, it'd be interesting if like we talked about NBA head coaches a little bit more akin to like how like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Kevin Stefanski are talked about. Because like those guys are developing these systems and then adding layers and expanding them based on their personnel. Like look at what McVay is doing with Stafford, being able to like chuck the ball from one side of the field to the other 50 yards on the second throw that he threw on Sunday Night Football. Like it's maybe just a lack of like my knowledge in covering the league and not maybe asking the right questions or talking to the right people. But I think there is like, I would be curious to see if like that is like a model that we could see in the NBA to some regard.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about for a while too, and I feel like
I don't
it's
know if
tough.
there's
Like
like
there are the pieces there. Like Jordy Fernandez is the guy I lean on a lot with this because Jordy Fernandez literally has his PhD in basketball analytics and how like analytics applies to an offense and stuff, and like what's like very Stefanski-esque in his approach in designing Denver's offense. And he has input from Mike Malone as well, but that is a good question because
but it's also like they have Nikola Jokic, who just like makes a lot of that possible. You know what I mean?
For sure. Like
yeah, like
that's the thing is like McVay. To be fair, Jared Goff was literally Pinocchio under Sean McVay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you get like
the Patriots figured it out, but
McVay can run like a scheme and like make Jared Goff like amazing, and it's a little harder to do. It's harder to do that in basketball. Like you can't like scheme your.
That's what I'm trying to say though. Is like you bring in like a truly cerebral offensive coach who can also, because basketball is tough too. I think like football, you have so many positions and skill coaches too. Like the head coach is more of like
when like you're literally like you
as the boss.
They're like script like even like for like.
And they script they
like the first
NFL offenses
so
script like their first 10-15 plays. Like they practice those 10 or 15 plays and then they go into their bag and start calling plays.
Yeah. And like the NBA, it's like it's not like you don't have like it's not like when you do
Collin
like Sexton brings the ball
for a game, you don't
but even like even in game, it's not like like there's just like Collin Sexton when he gets the inbounds pass is not like he's not getting a call to his headset. You know what I mean? Like,
the defense is set, the offense is set, then you call the play. Basketball's fluid and in motion. This is like the no dip observation of Evan now. But
no, the play is often called. Then you make tweaks at the line depending on like the thing. But it's like
I understand how an audible works, but.
No, but I'm just saying, like, there's not like a lead up time. You know what I mean? Like, you're not like the reads you're making are not like you're making them like it's like a snap decision. Shouts to Thanos. Like, it's just instantaneous, like muscle reaction almost. Like, it is not. It's just so different that I don't know if this comp even like works. It's just one of those things where it's like. I wonder if like if you had an architect who was more inventive, if things would go smoother. Like, would you? I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's just where I come to.
This is a good lead in to probably the last question of the night. Trevor Bauer asks, did they ever sign an offensive specialist type assistant coach like you guys have been asking for? No, I don't think Sidney Lowe is going to fit that bill. I think Sidney Lowe is, I don't know. He's a player development coach.
Well, I think he's a chip off of the bigger stuff kind of block.
For sure.
I was just good Q&A in The Athletic with Kelsey Russo that people should go check out.
Sidney Lowe has a wealth of experience coaching as an assistant and a head coach in college. I think he will help these players develop and grow. Chris and I were kind of taking the football approach and talking about like, okay, JB could be like the guy who schemes up the defense. You need to bring in a guy who can install an offensive system.
Yeah, like JB is like the CEO, is like a CEO type head coach to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He is the connective bridge between the locker room and the coaching staff so that there's no divide like John Beilein. Because I guess maybe Beilein's a good example of that. Beilein tried to come in and install his offensive system and players just did not respond to it and they mutinied against him.
Yeah, and like but like is that like
is that what worked in college?
Yeah, and also but it's like how much of that is like also like the person, you know what I mean? It's like it's like because it's like you like with like Shanahan or like Stefanski, like there's buy-in with Stefanski. You know what I mean? Like there is trust in Stefanski, there's trust in Shanahan. Like you did like no one was like Bill O'Brien, I'm going to run through a wall for you with the Houston Texans. You know what I mean?
Bill O'Brien's a good example of college coaches not working like the NBA. So
Lane Kiffin, baby, the OG of it all. But anyway, that's going to be it. We're going to wrap up there. Cannot believe
it's almost 10 o'clock. Your boy's tired.
I'm not. I have a lot of energy. It's not good. But anyway, everyone have a good night. Be well. We'll talk to you again soon. We'll be back next week, and training camp is coming up very soon. So be on the lookout.
Talk about my speeding ticket problem in college. See you then, everyone.
That's for the Patreon, Evan.
Yeah.
We don't have because we don't
too.
Yes.